This video is brought to you by Robinhood, the investment brokerage app that lets you buy stocks, ETFs, and crypto all commission free. Did you know since the start of the March stock market crash, over 800,000 new brokerage accounts have been created, and buying stocks was the third most popular thing that people spent their stimulus checks on? I know I did. So stop missing out and use the link in the description below. Get your free stock just for signing up, no deposit required. And finally, this is my real portfolio. What's up YouTube? Capital G here. Got some Appliancer action for you guys to check out, showing you what little Roboppy's deck can do. Some people were saying, Cap, it's not Roboopy, it's Roboppy. You gotta pronounce it right. So Appliancers are coming out in July. They're coming out in our next Battles of Legends, and they definitely look like a fun archetype. I love the aesthetics of them, but from a competitive standpoint, I'm not sure if I see it. First off, I think like one of the biggest problems with this deck is they don't really have any disruption. Like, you can look all up and down this archetype, you're not gonna find a lot of ways of actually stopping your opponent during their turn. The deck has removal for days, but they're not like quick effect removals. They're not ways of stopping your opponent during their turn. So that's the, kind of leads me to, all right, maybe this is a blind go second deck. And then when it goes second, it also doesn't do tons of damage, mainly because the Link 2, the Celtopus, it has 0 attack, and it's not really like there's no way to kind of get this deck to easily be able to OTK. The main card that does damage for the deck is the Laundry Dragon, because it actually has that burn effect, very similar to like Volcasaurus, and it has a good attack value as well. So like this is kind of like the main card that does a lot of the work for the archetype. But you guys will kind of see in these duels some of like the glaring struggles that this archetype has. Again, I'm not saying it's not worth running or anything, but it feels like a Poor's Man blind second Crusadia. So you guys will see one of the cards I believe you have to hit ASAP is the field spell. The field spell instantly, the second you put it on field, it gives you the Rota search for the archetype. And then if you go into a Link 1, so he's going for Laundry Dragon, it instantly just gives you whatever monster you use for the Link 1, it just gives it back to your hand. So like this card basically carries the entire weight of the deck. Like, I mean, he basically made kind of like a +2 right there. Who doesn't want a +2 every turn? Now right here is what you're going to see. Like, this is a problem for an archetype. He does stop his opponent, but it's largely not because of anything his deck is doing. It's not anything special Appliancers are doing. He just has the specific card in Called by the Grave to stop the specific, Madoche Angeli. You could obviously take this out and replace it with Solemn Warning or Solemn Strike. This is just RNG. Like, you had the card that directly countered what your opponent was going to do, and then he followed up with Twin Twister. Maybe that's not quite as luckily, but he's going to get another Called by the Grave, which will stop the next Angeli. The point that I'm making here is, even against an open field, this kind of reminds me of one of the problems Altergeist used to have. Against an open field, the most you can do is 1,000 damage. Like, that's kind of pathetic, right? I mean, seriously, against an open field with 3 monsters, most decks would be able to get you to maybe near game or something like that. Now, he's going to get Kaiju'd, and his second Angeli will also be hit with Called by the Grave, but again, that is more or less just like, it's just pretty RNG-ish. Now, he's going to go back. He's going to start trying to do some damage again, but you'll see that this deck, it struggles being able to do damage because a lot of the monsters have very low attack values. This deck is very similar to like Yugi's new Gaia cards coming out in Rise of the Duelist. You do more damage battling against your opponent's monsters than you actually do just like attacking directly. Now, one of the things I do like about this deck is if your opponent tries to attack like your Link 1s, they destroy them, you always get to draw cards from Celtopus. That's like really the one of the things that makes Celtopus kind of good. It doesn't really do damage, but it does kind of make it so if your opponent is killing your guys, you get to draw some cards just for losing them, which is also, it's kind of nice because happens in the damage step, and you can't get Ash Blossom during the damage step. Anyways, he is going to look to close this duel out, as he finally has an open field. Actually, no, he still can't close the duel. Like, this is what I'm saying, man. That's a problem, bro. When you got that, you have that many turns of stopping your opponent and you still can't game them, that is a problem, in my opinion. Now, I think he could have gone for Borrelsword Dragon. Yeah, he could have went, let's see, 2-1-1. Yeah, Borrelsword Dragon probably would have been the card that you would have wanted to go into there. With the Gamut Seal, you would have been able to close the duel out, but it does feel like it's a little bit of a struggle, maybe more so than it needs to be. And as he did take down the Laundry Dragon, his opponent got the draw card from Celtopus. Now, having just the fresh start on board, or the Sid start on board, obviously she's just going to die. Laundry Dragon's going to take her out. Second duel will be a little more it'll be a little more impressive. But again, it kind of shows you that this deck is going to have a little bit of problems. What I think this deck is going to need to do, this is my suggestion, and obviously I'm not an expert. There are no experts for this archetype. I think this deck would be better going kind of having the play style that's the Blind Crusadia build goes, not even necessarily running hand traps, running kaijus, because kaijus can not only break your opponent's board, but then you can go into Laundry Dragon, and Laundry Dragon can attack over the kaijus you give your opponent, and you can burn them for the damage. So like if you look at the turn 1 board, this is not good enough in my opinion to warrant you going first. If all you're doing is dropping Celtopus and Laundry Dragon, this isn't that difficult. Your opponent can do whatever they want. You have an impermanence, but that's RNG. It's not like you can search impermanence in this deck. Anyways, he's going to attack. This is just not reading the cards. Like, you don't want to attack in the Laundry Dragon because the field spell can move the Laundry Dragon. The Laundry Dragon can end up blowing up the Bigfoot. And even though you do lose the Laundry Dragon, it doesn't matter because you just draw a card in the process with Celtopus anyway. So that's like some of the fun things that this archetype can kind of do, but it's not like game breaking in the year 2020. His opponent is going to go Artifact Scythe to try to keep him out of the extra deck, although he is just going to Monster Reborn the Laundry Dragon. That's one of the cool things. This archetype has ways of bringing monster back from the graveyard, and those monster effects are online, so you can still do damage even if you're not necessarily able to use your extra deck. So that is one of the good things about the archetype. And when your monsters go down, even if Laundry Dragon constantly trades with your opponent's monster, you get to draw a card anyways. I think that yeah, kaijus feel like they would be a real good natural fit for this archetype, or what I think this archetype could definitely use, and I know I've said this a billion times, so people might be like, oh, come on, Cap, you say this about every archetype. I think this archetype needs a Salamangreat Roar, something that specifically says you need to control an Appliance or Link monster, because the deck has like 4 Link 1, so it's not going to be that difficult. But if Konami wants this deck to go first, they're going to have to give us some type of disruption, otherwise it's not going to work. You're going to see a really sick Super Poly play. I mean, I didn't even know people were playing this. He had 3 Link monsters on field, super polyed into that Guard Dragon Fusion monster. Not bad at all, but if you can't kill this deck off, it's very easy to recover. And here you'll kind of see some of the big damage that I'm talking about. You can take any like one of your Link 1 monsters, and then you can simply go for like Laundry Dragon, and basically Laundry Dragon is like the best way of doing big damage in this deck. He'll attack straight into that dragon, and then since it is well, no, he's gonna unlink it, but he ends up doing the burn damage and burning his opponent for 3,000 damage. I feel like that can be a way of doing big damage in this deck, but I still kind of think, like, when I look at that, it still kind of makes me think, well, isn't that just kind of like a worse version of Blind Go Second Crusadians? Anyways, this is what the deck looks like on paper, because if you're using that, right, if you are doing, damage like that, like you're kaijuing your opponent, you're giving them a Radion or a Jizukuru or something like that, and you're hammering them, and you're doing that big amount of burn damage, it feels good, but I'm not sure if it's as good as like what Crusadia do, because Crusadia do the same thing. They use kaijus to break the opponent's board, but they also get the attack value when it comes to like the Equal-Max. So it's kind of like the same thing, but Crusadia also have the ability to one-shot with Maximus and all the other cards. So I feel like Crusadia might just be a objectively better version of Appliancers, but this is Konami's first run. I know that they're supposed to be missing at least 1 Link monster, so maybe that will improve the deck, and maybe Konami could give this archetype more support in the future. Who knows? Maybe in Phantom Rage we could see another card. But what I would say, if Konami wanted to make Appliancers a little more well-rounded, I think that they either need another like big burn damage type card, or they just need some way to disrupt the opponent. Like, this deck needs a trap badly. People might not have realized it yet, but this archetype has no trap cards, so no way of kind of stopping the opponent. It's either the 3 main deck monsters, the 5 or 6 Link monsters that the archetype has, and then everything is spelled. Their spells are fantastic. The field spell is amazing because it's just generally even turn 1 it can be a +2. You've got a couple of ways of getting monsters back from the graveyard, so those are pretty good, but the deck needs a way to defend itself if it ever wants to like really disrupt the opponent, or they just got to make a monster that has like an Infernity Barrier or some type of negation in it. But personally, yeah, I would play this deck as Blind Go Second. I'd run kaijus in here, and I would try to maybe throw a couple of grindy cards in there, because yeah, just the fact that the deck can't really stop your opponent is really the Achilles heel of it. Anyways, if you guys are interested in messing around with Appliancers, this build of course will be in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and if you enjoyed the content, hit the thumbs up so we can help with the channel growth and for the YouTube algorithm.